Hello, everyone. We've got Kunal Patel on here today. You might know him as Dr. KP or Dr. Love Teeth or numerous different names. So thanks for joining us today, Kunal.
Thanks for having me, buddy.
So basically, I wanted to start with where else can I start? Love Teeth. So you bought your first practice in Cheam. When was that? And what was the process like of converting that and rebranding it?
Yeah, so I graduated in 2010. So 2014, so 4 years in as an associate.
Yeah.
I bought a practice. I always wanted something local to my house. I don't like traveling. Bit of a mummy's boy. I want to stay close to home. So I bought something close to home, really down the road from me in 2014. It was a mixed practice. I bought it for about 500k.
Right.
It had an NHS contract of about 180k. So
Okay.
Multiply that was going around then. It was valued. Yeah, no, did I pay that? Yeah, I think that was where I was at. And then I bought it, and I went to see it, and I drove past it 3 times, and I was like, I couldn't find it. It was like a proper old school house on the corner, overgrown. And that was probably the first business decision I made, which was actually, if I can't find it and I've got a financial investment in the business, how are my patients going to find it, you know? So one of the main things I did, which I now stick by, is any site that I have, I'll make sure it's out loud in everyone's faces and very clear that we're a dental practice that offers a wide range of dental treatments.
And how do you do that? Is that with the signage, the external signage, and making it really obvious?
Yeah, so when I was trying to find a name, because it was called North Cheam Dental Practice, right? It was like a lot of dental practices have these names. I always knew that I probably wanted more than one. So I knew I needed a generic name. I couldn't be the road name or the area name. And I think it was my dad that sort of came up with the whole idea of Love Teeth. And it was something that was quite common, you know, unique, but also got to the point of what we are. We're a dental practice, right?
Yeah.
And then I chose a colour, and I chose I call it slutty pink, right? Or Fuchsia pink, or whatever it's called, right? So it was the pink. And my mission was to bring Harley Street to Cheam, or to Surrey, and why not? And I wanted a nice, big, bright sign, so it stood out. So I chose that colour. And then I didn't want a fancy logo, because I then looked at Tesco, Sainsbury's, Louis Vuitton, all of these companies, and their logos are very basic. A logo and text and font that can be seen from miles away, right? So that's why the whole Love Teeth, you know, the most boring logo in the world existed. And it worked. It said what we did. It said what we sold. I put massive signs outside, which you can probably see from outer space, that said we do teeth whitening. It was something so basic as, look, we do teeth whitening. And from a practice which I inherited that probably did about 5 teeth whitenings a year, we ended up becoming Enlighten's biggest provider in the South within a year.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah, that's mad.
And I remember when I spoke to Payman from Enlighten, to be fair, I give a lot of my success to him, because when nobody wanted to know who I was, he was the guy who encouraged me and said, come on, let's do it. And he took the time to meet me, and I owe a lot to him. And he goes, okay, you want to do the whitening? Are you sure? You want to become a centre of excellence and commit to, I think it was 46 cases you had to do. I was like, sure, let's do it. And then, we did it, and it was so simple. We just put a sign out and said, we do teeth whitening. And we started getting patients coming to us saying, I would like teeth whitening. I was like, when did you last have your checkup? And they'll be like, last week. I was like, with your other dentist? And they were like, yeah. I was like, didn't you ask them if they do teeth whitening? And they were like, no, I'm pretty sure he doesn't do teeth whitening. Every dentist does teeth whitening, right?
Yeah.
So we realised quite early on what trick most dentists are missing, and that is just, we believe that because we're dentists, our patients believe or know what treatments we offer, but they have no idea. If if you look like a dentist that only does amalgam fillings, they're going to think that's all you do all day long, right?
It's weird that, isn't it? Because there is a massive disconnect between what we perceive a patient thinks and what they actually think. And, you know, something that you highlighted there that's really important is even your initial drive-by of the practice and missing it 3 times. That's almost putting yourself in the position of a patient. And it sounds like you've done that quite a lot, actually, with your branding and everything as well.
We do it all the time. Literally, it's maybe not so often anymore, but it used to be a regular daily thing that we would do walkthroughs, we would sit in the dental chairs, we would pretend that we are patients. I had to do it because it was only me that would sort of realise what was right and what was wrong. It worked massively.
All right, so you bought the first practice in 2014, so that's 4 years out from qualifying.
Yeah.
Did you always think I'm going to buy a practice and set up practices, or did you develop that over the years?
Yeah, so I think it comes from a family thing. My older cousin, he owns a chain of dental practices called Perfect Smile. So it was, and our dads were always in business together. So growing up, you know, I had to follow in his footsteps. But I graduated a good 7-8 years after him. So by the time I graduated, the financial climate was very different. It wasn't as easy to buy practices, and I knew I wasn't going to be able to have, 50 plus clinics like he has.
Right.
So, but I always knew I needed my own business, in it. Indian dad telling you, work for yourself. So I was like, I always knew I wanted my own. I knew I wasn't going to be able to achieve what my cousin had achieved.
Right.
I studied abroad, so my way of thinking was always different. So I thought, I want my own clinic, but I want to do something different. Like, why are people travelling to Harley Street for dental treatment from where I am in Surrey? What made it different? So I went and did a bit of research of what was going on in Harley Street. And obviously it's not what it used to be 20 years ago, 30 years ago, when it was the best surgeons in the world. What I realised is anyone can rent a room in Harley Street now. And actually it was so competitive out there. It wasn't really good money financially. So I thought, well, let's get our patients to come here. There's nothing so special. And that was it.
Boom. Yeah. So talking about so when you started, when you bought the practice, so you bought it had an NHS contract, and then did you always have this goal in mind of making it a private thing, or did that develop with time?
You know what? I love the NHS, and I say it to this day, right? I know a lot of young dentists are coming out of schools hating the NHS, and I interview dentists every day, and nobody wants to do NHS, and I'm like, well, why? How are you going to learn? Literally, they're like, oh, we just want to do composites. I'm like, well, how are you going to learn how to do composites? You're going to learn it on a private patient that is going to pay £250 for you to do a composite filling, where you don't even know if your composite filling is worth £250 yet. So for me, till maybe post-COVID, so let's say 2020, 2021, we never did a single private checkup.
Right.
Okay? A single private checkup would not happen. There would be either NHS, and that was it, and we used to upsell. And in 2017, I became the first ever Invisalign provider to hit diamond within a year alone. Again, an NHS clinic, having done not a single private checkup. It's only when we hit 2020, when I did the expansion, we did our NHS contract wasn't big enough to do it. So we introduced private checkups at that date. And only until now that I've come. So I took a break from COVID till beginning of Jan, so a few weeks ago. I didn't do any clinical dentistry. I was just mentoring, shadowing, teaching. And I've come back to it, and it's only now that I'm doing actual private checkups. But even then, I'm doing them for £20 and not even what the going market rate is. I'm undercutting the NHS because my view was that I loved the NHS because it was just an easy way for patients to access us. Then it's up to us to, explain to the patient what they need. If they don't actually need anything, then that's fine, be on your way. you're healthy, you're dentally fit. That's actually a bonus. 20 quid's enough for me, and if we want to make money, we make money by doing actual treatment. That's what I believed. And that's what the ethos I told my dentists that come to work for me is, we're not going to make easy money. If we're going to make money, we're going to make it by doing work. And so NHS, I still love it. I have it in 2 of my sites, and I think, I think it's the best way for a young dentist to learn, to be honest. I did it for many years.
So this is something that's an interesting point. So you qualified from abroad, and what I find with the people who've qualified from abroad, not as a generalization, but
no.
You've had to work harder to become a dentist. You've had to sacrifice more to become a dentist,
Yeah.
And what I find with that mentality, I find that interesting. Would you agree with that? Would you say that that's giving you a bit more fire in the belly?
So it was 2 things. Obviously, I was punished for not studying at my A levels and, kitting up my car and messing around, right? So my punishment was that if I wanted to be a dentist or a doctor or whatever it was, I went abroad. And don't get me wrong, now I'm hearing about dentists going to places like Valencia, living in penthouse suites and right, and getting Deliveroo every day. It wasn't like that when I did it. I went to the Czech Republic, and I thought I was going to be in Prague, the stag capital of the world, 18, 19-year-old kid. I got dumped there, and then a minibus picked us up with someone that didn't speak English and drove for 2 hours outside of Prague and dumped us in this hostel. And then it all came to light. Wow, this is reality. Spoiled little kid is going to have to fend for himself. I was there with my cousin. It was a reality check for both of us, actually. The number, we had to speak, read, write, check within 2 years. Otherwise, they kicked us out. By the end of it, in my final years, only 5 of us graduated out of 150. So it was a different way of studying. It was like my punishment. I had it. It made me realize a lot about life and how lucky I was. And so when I came back to England, first of all, I didn't know who the GDC were, so I wasn't scared. I didn't know what that was about and why everyone was so fearful of, practicing dentistry that we've clearly been taught and skilled. And so I came back, but nobody wanted to know me. I'd look around and I didn't know where to start. Nobody wanted to touch me. Nobody wanted to give me a job. Luckily, a guy down the road from where I live, was pestered so much, he gave me a job and I did a VTE. So, is there a bit more of a fire in my belly in terms of I worked a lot harder to get... I'm not saying, UK grads work hard. It's not easy. I'm not saying that, but I went through some hardship to get to where I was, to get a performer number, to be able to actually work. It wasn't, VT, nobody would give me a position as a VT because I was a foreign student. So, I went the long way around it. And I think
as well, like from an Asian lad to Asian lad.
Yeah.
It's nice to be able to travel home and get like your mum's cooking and stuff, Like, what I mean?
If you imagine what we had to do, it's the most disgusting thing that we used to do. We used to literally get a suitcase, ask our mum to cook like all weekend. We'll come back for 2 days. They'll cook, put them into these little pots. We'll then get freezer bags. We'll chuck them in there. We'll put ice packs in there. We'll fly back with 30 kilograms worth of food. The problem is the round trip from leaving our house door to door, right, was about 14 hours.
Wow.
So, because, and we were like, that food is more or less off. But we didn't care. We'll then refreeze it. We'll cook it just to, remember home. It was a tough time. And, there wasn't Netflix and stuff back then. We didn't have none of that. So watching TV, we used to watch live Big Brother stream. That was TV. It was Big Brother watching it live, and it was on 24/7. It was a different world. And I think what it also created for me is the way I am today is I don't believe I'm a normal dentist. I believe I'm a bit more of a thinking outside the box type of dentist. I love dentistry. I love treating my patients. Going back into it last, 4 weeks, I'm loving it. But I think I try and think of life through other people's eyes rather than what I'm just thinking I'm living.
Yeah. And what's that break been like? You know, that's quite unique. You know, so I say break, but it sounds like you've been working as well while you're doing it in a different way, but not from clinical dentistry. So does that feel like refreshing now that you're coming back? Do you feel like you've got a fresh lease of life on dentistry now?
Yeah, so the reason why it happened, it wasn't all planned. Look, nothing was planned. And there's one thing that, you know, those that know me know is that I'm impulsive. I'm a bit of an executor. I'll get an idea in my head and I won't stop until it's done. So, you know, COVID hit and I was just expanding my first clinic into a 5 surgery practice. It was 3 and we'll make it into a 6. And we just had the builders there and the builders were dragging their feet for a long time. And I was building this dream clinic of mine. And then COVID hit and I saw opportunities and I thought, you know what? Had a bit of time to actually stop and think. So I'll thought about life and where I want to go. And I thought, Barclays banks are shutting down everywhere. Barclays banks usually are in the most prominent area of every little town. Let's go have a look. So I went, inquired about Barclays and there was about 4 around. I thought, okay, let's get them all. So I decided to take all the Barclays because, you know, traditionally years ago they would have chosen the right places, right? Everyone knows where the Barclays is in the town. So we bought them all and we started building. This is like just towards the end of COVID. The one thing that I always found hard was when I was drilling was running the business at the same time. And as I got really busy, there will always be something in my ear and someone will come in halfway through a treatment and say, the compressor's gone in surgery too, or, you know, the toilet isn't flushing, or, you know, the light bulb's gone in the surgery. And I'll be like this and be like, hi, patient. I'll run out the surgery. I'll go fix something and I'll run back in and then I have to figure out time to do my notes. And what I just thought to myself is, I want to stop clinical and one day I'll go back to clinical when I don't have to have that stress. Because I think it wasn't fair for the patients and I couldn't give it away and it was just driving me mad. So I decided to open 4 brand new clinics in 1 year. That's what I wanted to achieve last year. So we set on the mission. So I stopped clinical dentistry and I bought a building firm and we started just building. We built all 4. There was supposed to be a 5th one, so there should be 6. We managed to do 4 of them. There's going to be 1 more soon. And we accomplished it by the end of the year. Now it's done. I've got the team in place. I've got a different structure in place. I've now gone back into clinical dentistry because when I had a small team of 3 associates who saw my work ethic and how my vision of love teeth was, you know, the team is now 15, 20 dentists, right? And the new have outnumbered the old people that knew my vision and saw my work ethic. So I think being back, it will be good for me to actually show people, you know, this is how I want it run and lead by example. And I'm not just a guy that walks around, you know, in a shirt and a tie, bossing everyone around, right?
That's it's a massive achievement, really. Like, so you're saying that you bought a building firm as well in that process, because obviously that's probably the most efficient way of doing it, right?
Yeah, exactly. So honestly, I won't stop. Like, this is how I do things. It's mad. People are like, seriously, I'm like, well, why not? It made sense, you know?
Yeah.
And the reason why I could buy a building firm is our family have a past of owning a building firm. So my mum used to be a contractor, so she owned a building company and just shut it down about 6 years ago. So I thought I was a builder, really. And honestly, if I wasn't a dentist, I would probably want to be a builder because I've loved it. I've been around it my whole life. So for me, this was easy. And it was probably one of the hardest things that most dentists find is building the clinics. For me, it was the easiest part, right? So that's why I thought, let's just do it.
I mean, 4 in 1 year. So, you know, that sounds very daunting to me. Obviously, I'm in a position where I've got 1. Four in 1 year, 1 or 2 years over the COVID period sounds like an absolute nightmare. Just from the perspective of most of us are pretty OCD about how we like things done.
Yeah.
And then everyone's representing your brand and you're putting that out there. How have you managed to deal with that?
Yeah, so part of me being non-clinical for them 2 years or so was to every associate I was offering mentorship and training. So if they had a case and there's a certain type of treatment that they weren't so confident on, they'll sell it to the patient and then they'll ask me to either come in and watch or come in and do it for them while they watched and learn. So we did an internal sort of mentorship training program. We thought if my clinical diaries are closed, that's the only way this is going to be possible. To try and do it between patients, it just wasn't right. So that was one way to get that across. But then, even then, it became harder and harder because there were 5 sites, dentists all over the place to get around. It was becoming harder and harder, and it still is. So what I started doing is there's an app called Vimeo, and it was actually Prav, who introduced me to it, because he used to send me videos of how to do stuff right through Vimeo, and I was like, oh, this is great. So what I started with my dentist is recording videos of certain aspects of the business or what I want done this week or what's happening, and I then post it as episodes. They get a private link to it. I'll then, if I did any treatments, we'll record it. So we'll record the treatment and then I'll create a little video and then post my techniques. And I can see how many views it's had, so I know if the dentists are watching it or not, and then I can have a go at them. So all of this came into play because, honestly, even to this day, it is the hardest thing. It is the hardest thing to get that vision that you have multiplied on a scale without becoming, one of them corporates where it's gone. And what was Love Teeth was key about us is all about experience. So a patient comes to our clinics, it doesn't feel like a clinic. We've got a particular scent that we have. So every Love Teeth smells a certain way. We have a look. We have, it's all a certain way. And I made sure that was maintained. But the thing that I find hardest to maintain has been the dental clinical part of things. And honestly, like what I am seeing over the years is the dentists that are coming out of university are really misled by social media. It's, what they're not realizing is the clinics like myself, we market on multiple different platforms of social media. So we do Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, whatever it is, right? We do all different. So we have Google. And if they're only looking at us through Instagram, okay, and seeing this is what this Kunal's doing, I'm targeting 20 to 30-year-olds on Instagram. So the treatments that I'm posting is teeth whitening, Invisalign, bonding, that's affordable to that age group. And then what goes misleading? Oh, Kunal must be doing well. Oh, Love Teeth must be doing well. Oh, look, all he does is do teeth whitening and bonding and Invisalign. That's where he's making his money. That's what's made him successful. That's all I'm going to do. And there's many people like that. But the true reality, if you go to any clinic owner like yourself, general dentistry is what makes you the money, right? It's general dentistry. And things like Invisalign and all these cosmetic treatments are going to be taken over by a lot of technology that's going to be doing it, and the skills coming out of it. Like to do Invisalign, I'm going to be honest, it doesn't need a really experienced, amazing dentist to do Invisalign now. The technology is taking over. Whereas the things that are going to keep us going is going to be the general dentistry, the fillings, the crowns, the most profitable treatments of all time. So when I see a dentist coming to me and they think that I want to hear teeth whitening and bonding is what they want to do, it makes it harder and harder. And this is what keeps coming. And I say to them, wait, have you looked at us through Facebook? On Facebook, it's all about general dentistry. It's about implants. It's about, this type of dentistry. So I think social media hasn't helped young dentists because it is not is not a true reflection on the successful dentists out there and the journey that they've taken. And that journey was, amalgam fillings, NHS, and the key thing that they're lacking is communication skills. We learned how to communicate with our patients, right? We're a different generation we sat on the train or the buses and spoke to people around us. The younger generation, they don't tend to. It's the whole phone generation. It's like my kids. They don't know how to talk to anyone anymore. They talk through the phone, and I'm talking about a 4-year-old even communicating this way. So I think it's becoming harder to find that right associate for someone like me.
I've found a similar thing. Obviously, I'm younger in the journey than you are.
Yeah.
But our business is kind of two sides. We've got the restorative kind of thing handled by my wife, who does a lot of the restorative dentistry, wear cases, Invisalign, bonding, all that, veneer cases, all that stuff. And me, I'm the implant guy, so I do a lot of the surgery and implants and stuff. And for both sides, we're actually finding associates who can actually. It's one thing to find an associate, but it's also finding an associate now with the humility to actually get mentored.
Yeah.
I'm finding that tricky.
Honestly, it's true, because they all seem to think that they're doing great. And, the way dental practices paid dentists is percentage splits. And back in the day, it was 50-50 or 45-50. And that was normal, because there was no such thing as a marketing budget. There's no such thing as dental intraoral digital scanners. There's no such thing as all of these things that we have to spend on now, right?
Yeah.
So what the dentists believe, that if they're taking home an X amount of money a month, they think, oh, I'm cool, I'm cushy. But what they're not realizing is that missed opportunity. Because, for example, an associate from me may take home 20K on a general dentistry. And I'm like, great, and, they're comfortable. But to us as a clinic, how much of that do we see after we pay the stock that's gone up, the wages that have gone up, all of the stuff? We probably, out of that 20K for ourselves, we'll probably see, maybe 2, 3, if we're lucky. And then that's why I went back to clinical, because I wanted to see, what's going on? And what I realized is, associates can be happy taking home 20K, but actually when I looked at it, there was 40K of missed opportunity. So they could have been taking home 60K, which would have been then made it right for me as a clinic to take some sort of money, right, to make fundable. So I'm just going to throw some figures out there. So in the last 4 weeks, when I came back, I quoted over £500,000 worth of treatment. Okay. I converted £350,000 worth of treatment in a month. Okay. And we then started 110K. So we've got 110K in that month. Then I sit down and say, okay, wow, what's been going on for the last 2 years? Because I didn't do anything differently. It's £20 checkups. And what I realized is that drive of a principal cannot come from an associate, because, taking 20K home like that, they're earning more than us, Yeah. I never, as an associate, ever earned 20K a month, right? I've never seen that sort of money in my life, right? So I think the way, and I know this podcast is about, business. I think the way we are paying associates and the way clinics are run, it's wrong. It's a way of the past, and we haven't caught up. And, you get associates and they're focused on 30%, or no, I need 50%. How can I take 30%? And you say, well, why are you so fixated on the percentage? Just think about, are you taking home £20,000 a month? That's enough. Just think about that, because we're now hiring TCOs. We're hiring all these, inquiry teams to make sure your diaries are filtered perfectly and you're efficient. We're doing all of this. So why don't you forget about the percentage and just know that you're going to be taking home X amount a month? I think
you're completely right, Kunal, because basically what they don't see, and they can't see it because they're not running a business, but what they don't see is the infrastructure that is needed around. Like, patients don't just magically appear in the diaries, you know what I mean? And there's a value that we're giving the associates by providing them with the patients, and those patients aren't free. You know, they cost money to get.
And it's not even, we're talking about £2. They're costing, if you look on average of a patient that actually then turn up and sit in your chair, you're talking about a minimum of 50 quid per patient, right? At least, if you actually look at the spend that we're doing. Like, I remember some clinic did some crazy figure in their clinic, okay, I'm going to be honest. At my clinic, when I had someone dodgy doing my marketing, it was costing me £250 to put a patient in my chair for a consultation for Invisalign. Okay? That's how ripped off people can get. Now, obviously, I'm a bit tech savvy, and I realized quite quickly, but there's other clinicians out there that are falling into this plan, and you know, they're being pressured by their associate. I'm not getting enough consults. I'm gappy in my diary. Well, if you're gappy in your diary, take that as a positive, because you can plan that patient. You can be more comprehensive, give them a more comprehensive checkup, right? Scan their teeth, you know, speak to them about how to brush their teeth. For fuck's sake. You know, no one does that anymore. All they want to do is, oh no, it's only an NHS checkup. See you later. I'm like, oh my God. But yeah, as a principal, we have different values for every patient that walks through.
Yeah. And actually, that's an interesting thing. You know, that's an interesting one, because there's a lot of associates now that are thinking about opening squat practices, and it's not for everyone, right? It's not like there's not one thing that suits every individual person, and there are a lot of negatives to it. And I think one of the biggest negatives is the massive learning curve. Now, that's a positive as well. But if you come into it with a complete associate mindset, your business ain't going to make any money.
You know, over the years, people have asked me, should I do it, Kunal? Should I not? And I say, look, and I get to know them. I say, look, there's usually two types of dentists out there. There's the ones that love dentistry and amazing at clinical dentistry and just love it with a passion. Okay? There shouldn't be principals. Okay, and then you've got the ones that don't really like it, but prefer the whole business side of things and, you know, love engaging and building something. They should be principals. And then you've got guys that can do a bit of both, which is great. Like someone like yourself, you're clinical, but you love holding business. You've got the support of your wife. You know, it works, because you and me, you know, we both know the biggest headache about being a principal is the staffing issue.
Oh, yeah.
And the staffing issue doesn't stop and doesn't change. So when people come to me and say, oh, do you think I should open my own clinic? I say, it changes. You also have to look at the economy and what's happening in the world. Right now, it's the worst time, because it's so unpredictable and volatile, right? When you came straight out of COVID, yeah, it was great and easy. There was always free money. Everyone did it, right? Everyone opened their bloody clinic, right? But those that opened clinics but didn't work on experience and developing something are now struggling. You know, everyone had 2 years to build some foundations and get some goodwill patients in, general dentistry in. They're the ones that are going to survive now going forward.
Yeah.
That were just trying to do one hit Invisalign treatment, see you later, in, out. They're going to struggle, because Invisalign prices have dropped massively. Lab bills have gone up, right? Everyone's doing Invisalign. Everyone's, you know, doing the whole ABC nonsense now. So I think it is a really difficult world. And when an associate comes to me and says, do you think I should open my own clinic? I do say to them, and I know them, and I'll say, look, you're great at what you do. Yeah, you're a great clinician. You're amazing about this. I know that you don't like stress. I know you like to go for a massage 2 times a week and work 3 days a week, because you think 3 days a week is full time. You know, you love this life, right? I'm telling you, when the day you become a principal, you will never see that money. Yeah, you will never have, you know, liquid money, because everything that you earn will go back in if you're a good business owner, right? If you're a business owner and you just got money sat in your account to spend, then you're not really a great business mentality, are you? Because a great businessman will be thinking about the exit, and that's when I'm going to get my money. right?
Yeah.
So if you like this lifestyle and
Kunal, you cut in there.
Yeah.
That is a summary, right? That's such a good summary because that's exactly how I think.
Yeah.
And same as my wife as well. Is like we're building an asset here,
Yeah.
right? So I'd be dumb to take money out of it.
No.
So when sometimes people ask me, am I going to take an associate wage out when I'm a principal? I'm like, no chance. No chance. You take the flat minimum that you need to survive as a house, right? And that is it.
and I'll prove that. You know, my 2 years out, which you're saying is quite rare, no one did it. In the 2 years that I was out, the business, it wasn't growing at its rate. I've now gone back in, not taking an associate rate. That's what the business actually lives off. It's my income. The associate's income is just continuing goodwill of your business, right? That you're going to sell one day. And that's what's really wrong about the dental field in principle and the way we're owning clinics is that's not a good business then, is it? So we're paying our associates wrong, but then because the world is or UK is already set in this way, unless we all get together and say, look, all of our associates are going to be paid 10% split, is not going to happen, right? So I think it is a tricky stage. I know a lot of clinics now are doing salary. I don't know if you are. But,
yeah, we are. Yeah.
Now hiring, you should just do salaries, the best way to do it.
Yeah, we do an hourly rate basically, or day rate.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
And that's right. You're modern, forward thinking, and your clinic, your associates should appreciate that. You're going to then be a clinic that's going to grow for them and be able to give them all the tools that they want.
Well,
right?
It's about repetition. So I had this guy in who I reference a lot for an interview. So he emailed me and wanted a job, right? So I get him in for an interview. He's quite a young dentist. And I said to him, honestly, I said, I'll talk honestly to you, mate. And so he was saying, what am I going to get paid? I said, right now, with your experience, you'll probably get 350 quid a day. Yeah. And his jaw dropped. And he was like, what do you mean? And I said, so how many crown preps have you done? And he goes, under 10. I go, how many root canals have you done? Go, under 10. I'm like, and he's made quite a lot of dentures. But I said, okay, you've made a lot of dentures, but like to my business right now, I'm worth more than you. Like my business is worth more to you because you're going to come here, you're going to get repetitions and upskill so fast, right? Working here. It's an investment. People look at a course and they think I'm paying 10, 20 grand for this course. But the reality is your day to day could be the course. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. And how much do we actually learn from these courses? I mean, I'm part of courses. I teach in them, but it's usually 1-2%. You take a little nugget. The real life learning will be, and that's what I don't understand. I have it as well. Just take the hit. I would have taken the hit to.
I did.
Mentally. You know what I mean? I would work for free just to get that experience. But now, unfortunately, I don't know. It seems to be like in self-retirement. I don't know what it is. It's a different world, but we're having to ride it, right? And it's part of being a business owner. We have to accept that we're going to have this different mentalities, and our job is going to be able to sieve out the good from the bad. I think.
What are you looking for then? So what's your kind of, let's say this, what's a sign if somebody said something to you as a young dentist that wanted a job, what would be a sign that's a great thing? And what would be a big red flag?
So usually my go-to thing is when they come in and they say, I love communicating with my patients, right? That my red flag is I want to do more bonding. Bonding, I'll say, and I'll sit there and I'll say, any experienced dentist that has been an experienced dentist knows the worst treatment that we can ever do is resin bonding. It's the most technique sensitive thing out there, right? It's so technique sensitive. It's patient preference. That the patients that tend to go for it are the crazy lunatic ones that can't really afford that treatment. So their expectations are through the roof. So in regards to, obviously, then you've got the naturally skilled guys who can do it like that, which is fine, right? You've got the Dipesh Palmers and people like that, right? That's fine. But if a brand new grad comes to me and goes, I want to do more bonding, and it's literally a red flag to me, and I'll say, you know what, see you later. Or I try and educate them and say, it's the worst thing that you can do in dentistry. What makes you think that you're going to be good at it? Do you have a natural skill for it? Because resin is one of them things that the more you do, the better you'll become at it. And when I learned it, 10 years ago, not many people did it. So I made mistakes, right? And then I got to a level I am now. But nowadays, patients are expecting that level now. There's no learning curve. Like, yeah, either good at it or you don't. So red flag, those that come to me and say, I want to do bonding. Green flag are the ones that say, I love general dentistry. I love taking care. I love communicating with my patient. And I want general dentistry. And I say, you're the guy for me, because then in time, we'll then make your diary niche over the years to your specific type of dentistry that we'll find is right for you. And that's what I home in on with my associates.
So you mentioned before about the prepping. A lot of principals should be prepping for an exit, or that's what a lot of us think about. So I just hear that you've increased your practice size by quite a significant amount. And obviously you know about the increasing multiples for as you increase your practice size. So is that the goal? Like, or are you just saying, I just want to build something, keep creating, and I don't really know where it's going to end?
Yeah, so I always wanted to spread like a virus type of build, right? So in the same area. I've not thought about multiples. I don't think about it. I hear about it. I've got lots of friends that have done it many times. I don't think about that. In me, it's all about legacy. So one of my legacies I want to do was change UK dentistry for the way it's done. So make it different for patients and create this sort of digital workflow and stuff. That's the legacy I want to leave. Would I sell up? Yeah, I'm not naive to it. I know there's going to be a good time and a right time. I am wary of the corporates. I do believe they're learning how to be a bit more like us, and they've got more money and firepower. And I believe they will do it on a scale that we are eventually, and a lot sooner than a lot of people think. So yeah, I'm not naive to it. I do think about exit. If that is that in 5 years, is that in 6 years? Maybe, could be. But I think a good tip that I can give you is Andy Acton from Frank Taylor. Great guy to talk to, because they can just give you up-to-date valuations and ideas on what it could look like if you were to grow and when to sell, and give you that sort of advice. And I think you should always know if you were to exit now, what would you get? Because that way you can act fast if another crisis happens in the world, right? We don't know what's around the corner anymore. We don't know what Dentex or Portman and them lot are planning to do tomorrow, right? They might, all of a sudden decide that they're going to give free checkups to the whole bloody population at all of their clinics. We don't know what's going to happen. So I think we'll be naive if we weren't. The reason why I want to do it is it was never about the money. It was always about doing something that will change and leave a legacy. I've got my own clinics. I've always said to my kids, I'll leave these ones to you. I built the kids clinic. That was for my son. And I thought, you know what? He was asking, Daddy, which clinic is for kids? And I was like, what do you mean? Pick any one. He was like, no, they're big people clinics. And then I realized, I talk about looking at things through other people's eyes, but I never looked at it through a kid's eye. And it was right. We're putting them in an adult environment and telling them this is right. So literally a month before I was opening, or 2 months before I was opening that site, I changed it to a whole kids clinic. And we built a kids only clinic. And I just do it for the fun of it. And then that's my thing. So yeah, am I thinking about exit? Probably not, but I'm not stupid. I want to, I need it to bring money home. But I just want to have fun with it. And then when I stop having fun with it, I think that's when I'm just going to sell out.
Yeah, and you've expanded, and you mentioned this. There's some warning signs for the economy right now. Going to 2023, possibly into 2024. Yeah. So what's your mindset? We're all thinking about this as principals. Well, we should be as principals. What's your mindset about like?
I think dentistry has always survived these times. I think we'll be fine as long as if you're a clinic that does a lot of finance, like we are. Predominantly, I'm not going to lie about it. We do. We're going to have to be wary that we may have to give other options to our patients. I think dentistry will be okay. I think the guys that will struggle and go down are those that didn't invest in an experience for their patients, didn't invest in general dentistry and getting some sort of some goodwill for the practices. And the ones that will struggle are the guys that just try to make a quick buck based on Invisalign and things like that, right? Because I think that money's going to be harder to get. Because if you think about the target audience for Invisalign, it was that age group that are going to struggle to get credit over this year, and they get everything on credit. So I think the clinics that do general dentistry, implants, the older age stuff, I think they're going to be perfectly fine. I don't think it's ever going to affect them type of patients. But yeah, the clinic's based around Invisalign, which a lot of people think Love Teeth is. Like, a lot of people think, yes, I'm a massive provider of Invisalign, and they think that's the bread and butter, but it's not. Invisalign is just a tool to get patients through the door and sell general dentistry. That's how we use it.
Yeah. And you talked about digitization. So again, as a principle, we're always looking at, right, how can we create systems that are protocols that are reproducibly successful? So it makes sense to go down the digital road.
100%.
So like, how do you feel that's going to progress over the next 10, 15 years?
So I think I was one of the really early adopters of the iTero, like a digital scanner. So my story was in 2016 or 17. I didn't do a single Invisalign case. And before I even did one, I bought an iTero scanner. And then I became the first person to become a diamond provider within a year, from zero to diamond in a year. And I'd bought an iTero without even having done a case. Quite early on, I realized, you know, the days of where we used to communicate and how people used to get it was talk. Then it was draw on a piece of paper, drawings. Then it was show them photos. Then it was, now it's all about video, right? Like everyone wants to see videos. Nobody looks at photos anymore on, anything. It's all about videos. And an iTero scanner or a digital scanner is video. So now when we actually communicate with a patient in video form with a digital scanner, that's what works, right? So yeah, we own the most iTeros in the country. If you think about the number of clinics to chairs, so every single dental chair has an iTero scanner. And we've integrated that technology. We've used, obviously digital x-rays we all have right now, but we introduced something called Second Opinion by Pearl, which will then diagnose our x-rays to a better degree, our bite wings for us. We've then introduced like things like taking notes. You know, there's a few, I'm not going to say which ones, but there's a few that can help take notes for you. And so, you know, we created this digital workflow, and that's why I was so confident that I could open 4 clinics in 1 year, because the Chin practice, we went back to the valuation, you know, it was valued around 350K. I bought it for 550. So at 350K, it got valued at, post-COVID, so 2019, it got valued at 3.5 million.
Wow.
So that's a tenfold turnover. That's a tenfold turnover in 6 years or whatever it was. Or less than that, based on this workflow that was all digital based. It didn't rely on humans or a nurse feeling sick one day or having a bad day, or my dentist being grumpy because, you know, his partner or her partner has, you know, had an argument. You know, it was literally scan the teeth is a protocol, you go in and out, and that was how we did it. And I think that is the future. I think humans have become more and more difficult to hire and find and staff, and I think technology will just replace anything that's repetitive.
It's an interesting topic, that, because you're right, and it's kind of quite a scary thing to consider, you know, especially I've got kids, you've got kids, kind of thinking about the next generation, looking at AI. You know, I don't know if any of the listeners have messed about with some of this technology like Chat GPT and stuff.
It's amazing, right?
It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. Yeah.
Man.
So it's just a sign but it moves so fast. Like, people think like, oh, it's going to take a few years, but the problem is that the AI, once it's established, it just can learn even faster and grow exponentially. So it's going to be a very interesting time for us as humans in general.
Honestly, the only thing that I feel, and I say to my kids, because I'm pushing them more into things like arts, and it's not the Indian thing to do, right? But
No.
it's more. I'm putting them into more sports, arts, music, all of that. Them creative.
With the problem with that, Kunal, as well, and just to jump in, is they've got AI artists, they've got AI singers, they've got the social media personalities that are AI. Like, it's weird.
The only thing that I believe that our kids are going to have chances is if they're creative, right? Because I think AI might not be able to be as creative, hopefully, because everything else is going to be able to do, right? Anything repetitive, it will take over.
Yeah, it will. Yeah.
So I think even dentistry, we're seeing it. You've heard about avant-garde's, the new veneer concept that they've come out with
the first fit technology.
Yeah. Obviously it's not there. It might be there, but the point that it's there, right, and close, is now taking the skill set out of even having to know how to hold a handpiece.
Even like Evo Dental with full arch, trying to really push that.
It's
the impact side.
So that's why I truly believe the cosmetic treatments that everyone's loving, and if they're going to live off that, the general dentistry, like doing that posterior crown prep or filling at the back, I don't think a computer's going to be able to do that. I think that's where we're going to still have a job, and we're going to have a job just to be someone that they can sue, someone to just prescribe the treatment, right? Because they have to find someone to put the blame on if it doesn't go right.
Mm.
It is a scary world. Obviously, we can't worry about it. Otherwise,
no point.
We become one of them people. We just have to live in the moment and ride it. But just adopt it as much as we can. The sooner you adopt it, all this technology. It's like, remember when we changed from Nokia to iPhone? I don't know if you're old enough, right? But we thought this iPhone business isn't ever going to work. Nokia, 3310 was the best phone in the world.
Well, it started with the bloody iPod Touch, didn't it?
Yeah, that was it.
Yeah.
This isn't music. But now, my parents use my iPhone better than me. So it's unreal how we got to adopt it early. And I think, this is a business thing. I think anyone that's thinking about opening clinics and doing that, I think you've got to think about the generation that are going to be your patients. If they are this Instagram generation that want to take a photo of everything, then give them something to take a photo of, because that will give you patience, and just adopt technology, because I think that's longevity, right?
So we're getting towards the end now, Kunal, and one of the final questions really is about your mindset. So even doing something as bold as, building 4 practices or potentially 5 practices soon, it sounds like maybe, like in that space of the 2 years and stuff, like what would you attribute that to? Like, where's that come from? Is that something that you've developed over time? Is it from family influences? Like, what would you say?
Yeah, I always say it was probably mum and dad that sort of gave me this sort of drive. So dad was a shopkeeper, like a corner shop. And I remember at a young age, I used to go and watch him at the shop, and he used to just talk to everyone. He would just talk. And there was this one lady came in one day, and he was talking about the grandkids and all of this stuff. And she only came in to buy a newspaper, and she left with a box of biscuits, some newspaper bags, and some chocolates. And he left. And I said, Dad, what's her name? He goes, I don't know. First time I've ever seen her in my life. And what I learned quite early on with my dad is he always knew how to put a smile on for a stranger, and the skill sets to have the confidence to just talk to anyone and know that you can just make their life better by communicating with them. And then mum, obviously, she was a housewife, and the builder was doing some work at her house, and next thing she knows, she's owning that building company, which she's
mad.
building. and she, the fact that anything is possible. So I think the combination of them two, I'm fearless, like probably my mum, right? In anything, if I put my mind to, I think anything's achievable. And I think for my dad, it's the whole, look, just communicate. It's the biggest asset that we have. That's it, bro. That's me. What gave me my drive? Mum and dad. Cheesiest thing that you can hear.
It's cheesy, but it's true, man, and I'm similar in that respect. And I'd also say like the relationships that you've chosen. So even like your partner and stuff, and that seems from the outside to have really helped you like and push things.
I mean, you know, we talk about that confidence and talking to people. I'm a short guy. I'm a short, fat, you know, chubby. I'll call myself chubby, not fat.
You're not fat.
And I'm curvy. I was that guy that will go buy a top from Topman, for example, and the cashier will be like, "Hi, how are you? How's your day?" And I'll be that guy that'll put my head down and won't be confident enough to respond. I'll be like that guy that said, "Yeah, hi, thanks," and go. And then I always knew, you know, at nightclubs, you know, I was a midget. I never chatted with girls. It wasn't going to happen. I can barely reach the bar to get a drink, right? So I never had that self-confidence. And then I met Lucy in my life, and I was like, boom, got myself a hot bird, you know, a hot wife. Now I've got my confidence. I can go and take over the world. And, you know, we all have that little thing. I'm being a bit, it's not the hotness, but she gave me that confidence. I always had a partner that will always defend me no matter what. And yeah, 100%. Like I put a lot. When she came into my life, things did change. Give me that extra bit of confidence.
Yeah, I've got a similar thing with my wife. So yeah, it's definitely helped. Yeah. Okay. I think we should leave it there before my son attacks me even more. All
right, buddy.
Thank you so much. So that's the end of the podcast. Thank you so much to Kunal for joining. My son invaded the podcast studio in my house towards the end of that podcast, so we had to cut it short a little bit, but I still feel there's a lot of value there and a lot of things that people can take away. And again, thank you so much to Kunal for his time. We'll catch you again on the next one.